God, remember when Paulie was living in his brother-in-law's shadow and was just the drunk, jealous one? Well, now he's got a robot. That is just one piece of proof to tell you that this just may be the silliest entry in this entire franchise. Rocky IV was once again written and directed by Sylvester Stallone. This will be key for something that we talk about later in this review. And this is, like, if Rocky III was really starting to dig into the cheesy aspects of this franchise, Rocky IV is just fully embracing the ludicrous nature of this underdog narrative. And after we see a brief recap of Rocky Balboa regaining the championship, he plans to retire and live with his wife, but a hulking Russian newcomer, Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren, comes along, and he is pretty much coaxed out of retirement to train his best friend Apollo Creed for an exhibition bout at the MGM Grand. See, Apollo takes exception to the fact that because this guy is Russian coming into a Western society, his patriotism is basically telling him, look, I gotta take this guy down. And again, in some of the more powerful scenes in this entire movie, he and Rocky share some scenes where he's like, look, I don't want to be a washed-up has-been. And it seems like that why I love Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed so much. And it just goes to show you that even though he's not a bad guy like we initially thought, he still has that ego and that sense of pride that he has to uphold. And now this movie is taking literally just a Cold War background. Now, you would think that this movie would take itself completely seriously in every way with this subtext, but oh my god, this movie is so stupid. But just because it's stupid doesn't mean that I don't like it at all. I actually kind of uphold Rocky IV on the same level as like a Commando level of stupid, where you can still kind of watch it and laugh at it and be entertained by it. There's still a lot of competence in the movie overall, but there's just stuff in this movie that feels completely outlandish in every way. Case in point, Ivan Drago, played by the ever so stoic Dolph Lundgren. I swear, it feels like he only gets about 10 words of dialogue in this whole entire movie. But I think he certainly looks the part. He does look like he's a very threatening individual. But this is a character who literally is taking anabolic steroids and applying 1,800 pounds of pressure with one single punch. Yeah. It's not very realistic in any facet. In a sense, Sylvester Stallone has written a video game character for Rocky Balboa to topple at the end. And I say video game character because he literally beats my favorite character in the franchise to death in the middle of the ring. And this is where I feel like the franchise's writing starts to get pretty clumsy. Because you get to this big exhibition bout in the MGM Grand, and the tension is certainly there. You certainly feel the America versus Russia war, but Ivan Drago is just waiting underground in the ring as it's lifted up from the floor, as there's a James Brown Broadway number going on around him as Apollo Creed makes his entrance. I'm not even joking. They got James Brown to actually perform Living in America for this thing. I will admit, it is a very spectacular WrestleMania-like entrance for Apollo Creed. And I love Talia Shire's reaction to this whole entrance and how ludicrous she thinks it is. But here's the thing, guys. I get that tragedy can strike in any sports realm. I understand that people have died in boxing rings and wrestling rings on the soccer field, but my favorite character in this franchise getting mauled by a video game character just felt very rushed. Like, it would be one thing if Ivan Drago beat Apollo Creed to a bloody pulp and didn't kill him, but I mean, without this whole storyline, we would not get the iconic line from Drago in the center of the ring as he's getting interviewed. If he dies, he dies. And then suddenly, a moment later, it cuts to the Apollo Creed funeral, and I'm like, okay, he's dead now. He's dead now. And I will admit that the funeral scene is actually handled way better in the director's cut that came out a couple years ago. And there's a very classy gesture from Rocky to leave his championship belt with Apollo's casket. But good lord, if only Rocky had thrown in the towel on this screenplay at this point, because it's like, it's really rushed, guys. But no matter, Rocky is going to avenge Apollo's death. He's going to beat Drago in Moscow on Christmas Day. And you literally get a montage recap of the previous 3 3 Rocky movies as he's driving around the city. Like, it's so out of left field. And this movie has at least 5 different montage sequences, including the training montage itself. And not only do these feel different because of how shoehorned they are, but Bill Conti does not return to score this movie. Vince DiCola instead takes over those reins. And with this music, and with these montages, and with the ludicrous action nature of this whole plot, Rocky IV, there is no other decade that could have made this movie other than the 1980s. Absolutely crazy when you go back and rewatch this movie and think back to how dated it all feels. But again, none of this is to say that I don't like Rocky IV. I actually find this movie extremely entertaining, especially as you get to where Rocky actually does go over to Russia. And he's in a very secluded location, chopping down trees and lifting wheelbarrows with his support system in there. And Drago is training with all these machines. Like, literally, this guy's a video game character that Balboa has to topple. And I do think that the final fight between Rocky and Drago is handled really well. Again, similar to the final fight in Rocky III. I think it's all directed extremely well. But again, you get a montage as these two go the distance, and it's like, the editing of Rocky IV can feel very distracting in a whole lot of ways. Not just in the montages, but even in the quiet moments. It just feels like there's way too many jump cuts for this movie's own good. Even though this movie is a very entertaining watch in hindsight, yeah, there's a lot of elements that feel very shoehorned in. Apollo Creed's death in the middle of the ring, the big 1980s montages everywhere with probably a lot of people's favorite training montage of all time, Drago! And literally, I swear I'm not making this up. Rocky Balboa making a speech at the end of the fight about world peace and coming together. Like, where was this message? So even though Rocky IV's screenplay can feel kind of self-indulgent if you really think about it, if you check your mind at the door and don't think about all this ridiculous stuff going on, Rocky IV is still well made. I still think it's very entertaining. Certainly not on the caliber of the first 2 movies, though. I certainly hold Rocky III over this movie in every way, too. The performances are all still very solid, but this is where the writing for the franchise really took a turn for the worse. I'm going to give Rocky IV a C+. I know a lot of people really, really love this movie, but again, you got to take off the rose-tinted glasses and look at this objectively. Let me know what you thought of Rocky IV down in the comments section below. Is this your favorite training montage of all time in Moscow and everything like that? Is Drago your favorite Rocky villain? There's a lot of things that we can talk about with this movie, and I really, really love making these videos and starting the discussion with you guys. Getting to interact with you makes things all the more fun for me. And if you're a first-time visitor, do consider becoming a subscriber and tap on that notification bell. That way you don't miss another second of this fun action over here. And do me a favor and smash the like button. These really, really, really help get this content out there to more lovely viewers like you. And stay tuned for more exciting videos hitting this channel very soon. We're moving right along in this franchise. We're over halfway home in the build-up to Creed 3. Up next is pretty much the black sheep of this franchise, Rocky V. We're going to examine it a little bit deeper, really think about if it's really the worst in the whole franchise. And it'll be a fun time, guys. March 3rd is right around the corner. I can't wait to get there with all of you guys. Y'all are the best. Thank you so much again for continuing to support this channel. Look out for more reviews of new releases very, very soon. And with all that being said, back talk commence!